Capital raising is based on trust. No system can replace relationship and trust. No AI can replace relationship and trust. If you did AI on a call, and you're not being authentic about it, the trust goes to zero.
I wanted to introduce everybody to Mr. Akash Jain. He's an entrepreneur, technologist, a business strategist, a fund manager with over 30 years of experience, launching startups, investing in different asset classes, running a pretty decent sized real estate portfolio. He wears many hats. Startups, oil, gas, many other asset classes since 1999. As a partner in a Silicon Valley venture fund to running his own generational fund focused on different asset classes. He's invested in over 200 deals as a GP and an LP. His investments in commercial real estate are spanning across many asset classes, multifamily, retail, land, car washes. You've done it all, really. Currently over $100 million he's an MBA in entrepreneurship from Kelley School of Business in Indiana, and a Bachelor of Engineering in computer science, and to top it off, married to his high school sweetheart, and they have two boys. So, quite the bio. I don't know if I did it justice,
No,
but
thank you so much.
great to have you with us today. How are you?
No, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for the platform.
Mm,
Thank you for everybody to join. Happy to talk about my story and some of the stuff that I've done in 30 years of my career.
absolutely. Yeah. So I wanted to, I know that this is a very open-ended question for someone like you, but what you're doing right now, could you briefly describe your business model and what you're focusing on in 2026 since you have your hand in so many pies?
2026, right? Again, like everybody else, hey, everybody's intrigued by AI, and AI is here to stay. And having being a technologist for the last 30 plus years since after my bachelor's in computer sciences, I've always been involved in technology. So I started this AI company about a year and a half ago. It's called Stellent, and we are building products to enable real estate and healthcare verticals. Because again, obviously, hey, prior to jumping big into real estate, I was used to be a healthcare entrepreneur. I sold my company in 2019 and had a decent exit out of healthcare. I ran that company for about 7 years. And since then, I've been doing a lot of real estate deals. And to make our lives easy, we have developed a bunch of products on AI, hey, for capital raising, one for realtors, another one for property management. So that is where I spend about 60 to 70% of my time these days is working on my AI startup. About 20% of my time goes into real estate, asset managing our properties. I currently have about 700 doors, mostly in Dallas Metroplex. Totally on the real estate side, around $100 million. That's what I'm managing. And then the remainder of that 15 to 20% of my time, I spend being a general partner in a Silicon Valley fund, which invests in seed stage startups.
Okay. And what do you think motivated you? It's been quite a long time, but what do you think motivated you to initially pursue this multifamily commercial real estate side of the business?
I did my first real estate deal in the United States in 1999. I became an accidental landlord. Hey, my wife, she was doing a residency in Philadelphia. We had a house there. She got a fellowship offer in New Jersey. We moved to New Jersey, put our house in Philadelphia on rent. Became an accident landlord because we thought we were going to come back to Philadelphia in 1 year. Lo and behold, hey, after New Jersey, moved to Indiana. That's where I did my MBA, bought another house there, and put our house in Jersey on rent. And from Indiana, we moved down to Dallas. So now we have three properties, all in three different states on rent. Side by started creating a single family portfolio here in Dallas. And every year, 102, in about 5, 6 years, I had about 10 plus properties. And now that became a job for me, managing the vendors and fielding calls from all the tenants and so on and so forth. And I think it was only around after in 2019, 2020 is when I started looking. And while I was looking at it, I started doing some LP deals, invested in a few funds, $50,000, $100,000 here and there in some of the real estate deals for other people. And I had no idea about the whole game. Hey, some friends and family would approach, put in $100,000, $50,000, something like that. It was only after I sold my healthcare business in 2019 that I started focusing on, hey, what should I do next? And that's when I started diving into multifamily. It's over the past 6, 7 years is that I've accumulated 700 units. And obviously, hey, right now we are not in a good market, but during the heyday, we bought and sold a bunch of properties. And like any other astute investor, my philosophy is very simple. I'm a very well diversified investor. I do play in the stock market. I do invest in Silicon Valley. I've done more than 100 deals in Silicon Valley itself. I go to every Y Combinator demo day these days, and where you can see about 100 companies present to you in one day. So I play a very diversified portfolio. Even in real estate, I invest in multifamily. I have retail assets. I have land assets. I used to hold a couple of office assets. So I try to balance my portfolio that way.
Gotcha. And do you ever feel like you get maybe overwhelmed? And maybe how do you manage not being overwhelmed by the amount of things you have going on any given day? Like, how do you stay organized?
So it's systems and processes and a team. I think hey, we have to put together the right systems, right tools, right processes to be able to manage a bunch of these things. Hey, like I said, I don't property manage any of our properties. We have a property management, very well-oiled property management team, third party that we work with. I generally am involved in asset management. And that is one of the reasons that I have also have most of my properties in DFW. I don't want to be flying around the country asset managing our properties. I want to be able to touch, feel, smell my properties. I show up and announce any given point of time. If I have a another meeting in the Fort Worth area, I'll just stop by at a property in Fort Worth. If I have a meeting in East Dallas, I'll stop by the three properties that we have in East Dallas without letting the manager or any of the staff know. That's how I will be there on the property, probably about once every at least every 2 weeks to
Mhm.
2 weeks. And then I do have a team of VAs and other people in India and Philippines who help me stay organized.
Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, and it sounds like you've created different, you have your property managers and you have all of these systems in place. And as long as they all work together, you can focus on what you need to do. And I think that is, especially when it comes to going to your properties, something that you see some people not really do as much as they should. It's your property. Maybe you should visit it every once in a while. You'd think that's common sense, but some people want to delegate that out too much because you can't go too far with delegation and third partying things out. So it sounds like you have a nice balance of that. And I'm curious, how did you get the necessary skills and knowledge? Did you have a mentor or a coach when you first started? Because you couldn't just go on YouTube in the early 2000s and look up how to be an asset manager, how to do these things like you can today. So did you have a coach that you leaned on early on in the process?
Like I did look at what Dave Lindahl was teaching. I looked at what Brad Sumrock was teaching. I looked at what Rod Cleef and Jake and Gino were preaching. But at the same time, hey, I do have an MBA in entrepreneurship and finance, right?
Hmm.
As I used to run prior in my prior life, I was an M&A consultant for Ernst& Young and Cognizant and Infosys and such some of the similar kind of companies. So I have done mergers and acquisitions for multi-billion dollar companies. Okay, so when it comes to finance, looking at numbers, doing underwriting, that was my sweet spot. Now, and after that, I was in healthcare business. I grew my company to about $40 million in revenue in about 7 years. And then I had an exit in 2019. With that, there's a lot of business skills that come as a business owner. So when I started looking at a lot of the gurus, if you may, hey, there was not a single thing which stood out at me where I should have spent 25, 30, $40,000 to go attend their courses. What I
Right.
did instead was I started attending a lot of conferences. Right. So I've been regularly attending the Ultimate Partnering for the last 4 or 5 years. I have attended a few Brad Sumrock School classes or whatever conferences. I have now gone to a few of Jake and Gino's conferences when they used to do their conferences. I've gone to every best ever conference for the last 4 or 5 years. So in a year, I would go to 4 or 5 conferences. And that is where I would learn a lot. I would learn a lot from the people on the stage. I would learn a lot at dinners, at events, and from networking and picking people's brain. Like, hey, for example, hey, Trevor, I meet Trevor at a lot of these conferences. Trevor goes to a lot of these conferences as well, and we exchange notes, we exchange things about what people are doing. Now, like you are hosting this platform here, I also do attend a lot of the masterminds. Hey, I'm a investor fund manager. One of my funds is on Avesta platform. Avesta has a mastermind. I used to attend a lot of their weekly calls. Cashflow Portal. I am also a customer of Cashflow Portal. One of my funds in Cashflow Portal. So Perry Zhang and Adrian and those guys, they do a pretty good job. They recently hosted a mastermind in Dallas. I was a part of that. I was a part of the Sam Silverman mastermind, of fully funded mastermind course. I used to be a part of the Connected Capital that Madhvi Jain and Bobby Sharma used to run. So again, being in those masterminds, these something very that you guys are doing with the Hero Alliance, hey, being part of a lot of these calls is over the years, you pick nuggets, you pick certain things from hey, Sandhya Sheshadri, she does a very good job for asset management. Talking to her about, hey, what are the gotchas and what are the things that you do on the due diligence side and so on and so forth. That's how you learn on some of these things. Now, here, Tim is doing great job of teaching everybody about fund and fund of funds. Hey, in the Aviator Mastermind, we talk a lot about customizable funds, right? So picking up tidbits from all these calls and so on and so forth is where I have gained my knowledge from, learning from each other.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like you are doing a little bit of both, right? Going to conferences, being in the right rooms with the right people, but also being pretty open-minded about, I probably don't know everything, right? So let me talk to someone who might know more about this specific subject than I do. I know, especially when it comes to funds, when you're getting into it, it can be very confusing. And so having someone like a AVET or cash flow portal to, again, we're going back to process, let them handle some of those processes for you and set up their own systems and you leverage them appropriately. But all the while, you're still going to conferences. And for pretty much everyone we interview, that's probably the biggest takeaway that I get from a question like that. When I ask them, what did you do? How did you get here? I went to a bunch of conferences. I went to a bunch of meetups. Tim hosts one in Houston pretty regularly. And I think it's one of the best ways to grow your network is in person because it is so much more powerful to have a conversation with Trevor or whoever face to face for 10 minutes than to get on a Zoom call and then we get off the Zoom and then there's no real human interaction there. So I really like that. I'm curious, we are here on the Capital Party. For the first big capital raise that you did you have any major challenges and how did you kind of overcome them?
Hey, no, I over the last what do you got? Gosh, maybe 5, 6 years, 5 years, I raised over $25 million for various different assets, whether it is the fund in India that for startups that we are raising, or the fund in the Silicon Valley, or the car washes, or for our multifamily properties. One of the biggest challenges we faced was in 2022, we had put a property under contract and we were hell bent on not getting floating rate. And we had, which hindsight, in hindsight, was a great thing. We got a 5.49% rate with Freddie Mac, and but obviously the leverage was low. Because the leverage was low, it was a 36 million dollar property that we were buying. We had to raise about $18 million out of it. And out of the 18, we had sight to about $8, $9 million, and we were trying to bring in Pref Equity Group to finish the remainder. And we lined it up. We signed the LOI with the private equity group and or the Pref Equity Group, and we were all set. Hey, raising $7, $8, $9 was not a big deal. I put in $1 million of my own money in that property, right? And hey, we were 35, 40 days away from close, where I get a call from the Pref Equity Group that they're pulling out. We had about $500,000, I think 1%, I think $400,000, 350 to $400,000 of hard money, plus another 100 to $150,000 of the money that we had given to the bank to lock in the rate was at stake. And so we basically buckled up our seats and we said, hey, we did flutter around and started looking for other pref equity companies. But at that point of time, whoever was coming in, their term sheet was horrendous. They basically were going to wipe us out if anything bad was to happen. And so we basically buckled up and we basically left no stone unturned to get to the $18 million in the remainder of the 40 days, if you may. That a tough hill to climb.
Sounds
Even in
very
the last
stressful.
even in the last 10 days, we had about $3 million left. And that is when
Wow.
we brought on a couple of partners to raise the last $3 million, if you may. On the $18
Hmm.
million, we had five $1 million checks, six $500,000 checks, and the remainder were quarter of a million, 100,000, 50,000. 50,000 was the minimum for us.
Wow. That is quite the story. It sounds like there is no other real option besides we just have to lock in and do it ourselves.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do. Hey, if you have so much of your money as well as your friends and family's money at stake.
Yeah. And when it comes to the kinds of investors that you target, do you target more? Did it seem more challenging because you target the bigger check writers and getting them to write those checks in such a short amount of time is more difficult?
Like one of my go-to things is generally, I think in about 90, I think maybe 100% of the deals actually, when I start thinking about it. And 100% of my deals, I'm the biggest check writer. I put in my money where my mouth is. So most of the biggest, so like I have a deal where I raised about $3 million. I have $430,000 in that deal. So I am the biggest check writer in my deals. So when a lot of my friends and family, some of the people from the DFW Metroplex, some of the close people, close friends and family that I know of, when they see I've written $1 million check, they are not hesitant about putting in another $500,000 on top of it.
Can I ask a question? I think it's
Yes, sir.
relevant to this point. Why did you opt to go pref equity in the first place?
I think because we only had a line of sight to about $8-9 million at that point of time. We didn't think we would be able to
Yeah,
get to the whole 18, if you may. I think
I
that
guess you
was
learned a lesson there.
yeah,
I
absolutely, man.
mean,
Right now, I have term sheets for about half a dozen companies who came to us at that time. And I kid you not, if I put it in AI right now, they're like, "Are you kidding? Are you out of your mind?"
yeah, pref equity
Yeah.
smells blood in the water still.
Absolutely.
And they are just this maturity wall that's coming. It's all going to be owned by 3 or 4 companies, in my opinion. BlackRock, BlackRock, JP Morgan. And so they are just going to pillage the landscape looking for stuff. I've never done a deal with pref equity for this reason. So I was just really curious, guy of your stature, why I guess you had to screw up your courage and get it done. But yeah, I just was curious.
You got to think back to the
No,
time.
again, I think the first private equity company that we got, the terms were not like I said, hey, we looked at like I have a roster of about 50 private equity companies that I think during that time that we talked to. I think we shortlisted about 8 or 10. And then the term sheets that we got initially, the one that we went with were fairly okay. They were not egregious at all. But then once that deal fell through, the ones that we got after that, because then everybody could smell that, hey, we were desperate.
Oh, yeah.
We do want to save Q&A for the end, if possible, because
Okay.
we do cut this up and put it
All
online.
right.
We want it to be a continuous interview. So just write down any questions you guys have. We can address them at the end of the interview, if you can. I'd appreciate it. Thanks. But when it comes back to what you were saying about putting in your own money and being the bigger check writer, do you think that that's an easier way to establish credibility? Because my next question was going to be, what are some ways that you try to establish credibility with your investors, especially when a situation like this comes up? Do you think that's the easiest way to show, hey, look at all this skin in the game I have, so you can trust me?
So I think when we talk about capital raising, right? Hey, we have a product called Capital AI that we use for automation and whatnot. But hey, tools are tools, systems are systems. People do business with people. I think all of us know that. People look at people and say, "Hey, can I trust you? Can I trust my money with you?" And hey, I think that's an easy way to establish that trust and credibility. But hey, I think some people who know me here in the DFW Metroplex, they know I care about their money first more than I care about my money. I'm glad if I could do a bad deal and nobody would even know about it. But if I do a bad
Mhm.
deal with somebody else's money, everybody and their mother will know about it. And that's one way to establish credibility. But at the same time, that's a signal to the market saying that, hey, I'm putting in so much money into this that I am so confident that this is going to go out of the park.
Absolutely. And since you do work with bigger check writers, what are some ways that you find and attract them? Because most people are working with the $50,000 retail kind of check writers that are pretty much everyday people in their life for most people when they first start raising money. But as you get bigger, obviously, you have to find new ways to attract investors with bigger checks so you can fund an $18 million deal. What are some ways that you try to build those relationships with them, the bigger check writers? How do you find them?
Hey, networking is key, but as prime, even before networking, hey, you need to settle on the values and the trust, right? Nobody that you meet for the first time is going to give you $500,000. But now, if you think about the people on this call itself, hey, I and Trevor, we've known each other for probably about 5-6 years. I and Gabe here on the call, have known each other for 5-6 years. Now, hey, even then, I don't think Gabe or Trevor would give me $500,000 at this moment for the next deal that I'm bringing on, right? So the relationship has to be much stronger for the bigger check writers. A lot of these are people that I have known for 10 plus years. Some of these are personal relationships, if you may. Right. Yes, the $50,000, $100,000, those check writers can be people who you met two or three, four times. Obviously, money is money. Hey, $100,000 for me is probably as good as $500,000 for you or whatever have you. It's just parting away with money is very difficult. It's hard-earned money for everybody. So I think it's the relationship, the trust, how you establish that over a period of time, whether it is one meeting, 5 meetings, 10 meetings, over dinners, over taking a trip together, whatever it is, that establishing that relationship and trust is very important, especially for the bigger check writers.
Absolutely. And whenever you've built up these relationships with people, and now you have a deal you're ready to promote. I'm curious, how do you integrate what you guys are doing with AI into your marketing and promotion for deals and finding investors, like with the tools you guys are using? Or is it just, hey, I just send it out to my list because I have such a good relationship when I get a deal?
Again, I think AI is going to allow you to streamline a little bit of things. Systems like, for example, I'll give you an example, right? So in the Capital AI is the product that we developed, right? And it's currently helping people streamline their fundraising. What does it help with? It can help basically put together an avatar for you, put together who should this deal be going to. In our Capital AI system, we generally lead score the recipients, right? It can actually bring up who are your next people to call. Hey, what does the lead score look like for the 1,000 people that you have in your database? Some of them may have opened your emails, not responded to it. Some of them may have booked a call with you and hey, and then not showed up to the call. People who showed up to the call, people who have opened your emails, people who you have texted with, their lead score starts getting bigger and bigger. With AI and the right scoring and mechanisms, you basically know who are the next 10 people who are really hot for you to call now. Your email copies, your one pagers, your deckware, hey, how your decks are looking like. All of that is done by AI these days. And you don't have to spend a lot of time on it. You spend time on personal relationships. You spend time on getting on a call with somebody. You spend time on meeting them for a drink. So AI cannot replace you. AI cannot replace your handshakes, your hugs, your grabbing an old fashioned together, right? It can replace taking somebody's number down. And when you're on a call like this or when you're meeting up, you can dictate what you guys talked about. And that will get stored somewhere. And then your lead score goes up. Hey, you need to start spending more and more time rather than writing an email, writing a copy of the deck or whatever else have you on relationships, on meetings, and then let AI and the systems do its job in the back end.
Yeah. And I think some people taking AI a little too far, because you said it perfectly, it can't replace you. It's a great tool and you can use it to do a lot of things. But if you try to use it to talk to people for you, it can go sour. It can tell you who you should talk to, maybe what you should say, but you never want to push it too far, right? Because the human element, especially when it comes to raising money, it just can't be replaced. And so it sounds like you guys are doing some really interesting things with your lead scoring and your processes on the back end to make it easier for the capital raiser because it's already raising money is already hard as it is. So let's try
You know,
to
example, right? AI, you talk about the AI on the voice side, right? We do use a number of voice agents for our AI,
sure.
right? On the capital raising side, we have investor relations AI bot, right?
Sure.
So if you have a general question about a deal, if you got your money, hey, we will basically let the investor relations bot let you know that, hey, we got your money. And it will be in a very natural voice and so on and so forth, right? But again, you're absolutely right. It is not going to make a call on behalf of Akash Jain. It's going to make a call saying that, hey, I'm Akash's assistant, or hey, my
Mhm.
name is Emma. I'm an AI assistant for Akash. I just wanted to let you know that, hey, we received your money. I think one of the things, Gabe just hosted a conference here in Dallas. And one of the things that we learned at the conference was it's amazing to leave video notes for your contacts and people, right? And that's a very authentic thing to do is leaving a video voice note saying that, hey, Logan, I thank you for your $50,000. We just got it. Hey, we're putting it to work. Perfect example of a video note, right? However, there was a comment during the conversation. We were having a discussion at Gabe's conference about that. Hey, can we replace that with an AI which says, "Hey, Logan, I got you $50,000. Hey, Trevor, I got you another 50,000." And the answer to that is no, because if somebody finds out that you've used AI, that trust factor just went down to zero. So there's a place for AI. Yes, we can use it to do repetitive tasks as long as you're authentic about it. As long as if somebody calls in and says, "Hey, who am I talking to?" And if you still don't say, "Hey, you're talking to AI," that's wrong. You may not volunteer then. Well, again, I think there is a fine line. You may not volunteer then for anything because people will generally find out that, hey, you're talking to an AI. But if somebody asks, "Hey, am I talking to a real person?" and you at that point you don't say, I'm AI," that's wrong.
Yeah. Because people, they're not stupid. And when you try to trick them into thinking that they're talking to a person, you basically say, "Oh, I think you're not very smart. So my AI is going to trick you." And that is a very, very valid reaction too to say, "Oh, you've lost my respect then. If you can't just tell me it's AI." And you can tell me it's AI, and then I can tell the chatbot, "Hey, why don't you schedule a call for Akash to call me then?"
Exactly.
Cool. That's fine. We use an AI for the ultimate partnering for all our events. When you go on the website and you opt in, hey, my name is Tina, right? And then as soon as you want a conversation, I call you because you can only go so far with it. And I think those are very fine lines. And everyone has different opinions on it. And maybe someone's particular investor network has more leniency with it. But especially in this age, it's taking everywhere. Tanya just said she's transcribing this call with an AI extension right there in the comments. It's definitely a good tool, but also I don't think AI is taking away capital raising from anyone anytime soon. At least not getting
No,
on the Zoom and
it's
asking for
helping
money.
quite a bit. Pardon me, Logan, but it's helping quite a bit. Like for example, right,
Mhm.
every day in my meetings, I use Fireflies to take down all the calls, all the
Yep.
transcribes. But not only that, I use a version of Fireflies which can understand multilingual. Okay, not only that, then we use another system called ClickUp for all our task management. And what Fireflies does is basically creates tasks in ClickUp for all of me and my team based on our conversation on the call. So there is a lot of automation that can be done, but as long as done authentically, as long as like capital raising for everything is a very fine line, guys. Capital raising is based on trust. No system can replace relationship and trust. No AI can replace relationship and trust. If you did AI on a call, which you and you're not being authentic about it, the trust goes to zero. You've lost that deal before it actually even began.
Yeah. I think authenticity is the perfect word there. That's really what we're looking at is if you're being authentic with it, fine. If you're trying to be like shady about whether you're using AI in a specific way, people they're just gonna see right through it. Yeah. So I love your mindset and your thought process on how you use it, which I think is a healthy one.
And I'm an AI company, man. Hey,
Yeah,
okay, sometimes
exactly.
I do get the debate from a team from my team. Okay, I'm like, no, no, guys, you can't do this.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a good follow-up question, I think. How do you try to cultivate and maintain long-term relationships with your investors? Do you do any kind of strategies? We hear some funny ones all the time, like newsletters, direct mail, sending a bottle of wine, birthday cards, anything like that.
Again, I think the consistency is the key, right? And it's very hard to be consistent. Kudos to you guys at the Hero Alliance for doing this every Tuesday. It is very hard to be consistent. Consistency with the newsletters, consistency with the podcasts, consistency with posting. Hey, you will see a lot of us doing it sporadically, right? Hey, if I do it one week, next week I'm not doing it because I was off. Third week I'm back on it. One month I send a newsletter out, next month I don't. Same thing with our apartments that we have invested in. If the people don't hear from you consistently, that's also a loss of trust. So when you talk about, hey, what should we do? It's all about consistency. If you don't have time to do it every day, do it once a week. If you don't have time to do it once a week, do it every month. But at least be consistent about it, right? Consistency in posting on LinkedIn, your social media. People need to hear from you. Hey, what your views are on the world, on various different things, even if it is your travel, even if people want to know the real you, right? What are you doing
Mhm.
with your family? What are you doing with your travels? What are you doing with education, conferences? Are you tooling yourself up? Doing social media, doing that consistently, doing that newsletter consistently, doing the podcast consistently. I think consistency is the key.
Absolutely. Yeah, we do this every Tuesday, rain or shine. We'll do it the day after a holiday. No one will show up. We'll still be here. I'm sure some of you guys have seen me. I'm muting, coughing up a lung. I'm getting over a cold. Show never stops, right? So you got to keep going. I think that it's easily one of the most underrated parts of, especially social media. It can feel very draining to stay consistent on social media because there's so much noise, there's so much garbage on social media and being consistent about it, which is where that's how we teach people. It's where most investors are. They're on LinkedIn, they're on Facebook. So you have to be the one who's consistently reaching out to them. They're not just going to call you for fun, right? And so I think that is easily the hardest part about being active online. It's just being consistent. And so whenever you're trying to stay consistent, how do you try to make sure that you have funds available when you find a good deal instead of trying to like scramble? Or is it just hey, I know my list is really strong, so I know I don't have to scramble. Your investor list is really strong.
So again, I think one of the things is, hey, so when we look at so the way a lot of us have approached this is primarily using funds, right? I think syndications they're still in play, but hey, a lot of people used to do syndications. I think a lot of us have moved away from syndications into funds. And one of the main reasons that a bunch of us have moved into funds is so that we can do keep raising money for upcoming deals, and we have funds available whenever there is a good deal or not. Hey, I do have a fund, it's a customizable fund, but over the last year and a half, I have been sitting on the sidelines. I have not done a deal in the last year and a half on the multifamily side. And I think a lot of you, hey, a lot of us have been sitting on the sidelines, right? I do look at a lot of good deals coming out in the market. In fact, like in the last couple of months, we've seen a lot of deals with 30 to 40% discounts in the DFW marketplace, right? However, those are not cash flowing deals. Those are deals which are in distress, or you have to bring in a lot more money to the table and to be able to pick those deals up. But there is definitely a lot of good deals, not cash flowing deals.
Mhm.
And so if you have deeper pockets, right now is the time to go buy in Dallas. I don't know about Houston as much. I'm not keeping a track of how Houston and Austin markets are doing. We have a couple of really good people here for Houston and Austin markets. But again, hey, to your point, right? Hey, funds is a one way to do it. Second is, hey, having those bigger check writers around you. I do have some money sitting on the sidelines that I can invest myself. And that is where I think you lock in a deal with your own money and then go and backfill it. That is the way I would think about it. I do have a couple of friends who actually can write big checks. Again, lock in a deal, and then backfill it with some other smaller investors.
Absolutely. And speaking of the customizable fund, for those that don't know, why did you choose this particular structure over a different type of fund or just doing syndications?
I think it's primarily the cost and the management, right? Hey, with a customizable fund, you're able to do multiple syndications, multiple kinds of deals. The name of my fund is multi-asset generational. It's about creating generational wealth using multiple different asset classes, right? So my fund does not only have multifamily, it has a startup in startup. It is a fund of funds for a startup fund in India, right? Initially, when I started it, my plan was to have other asset classes in it as well, car washes, as well as short-term rental, oil and gas. So customizable fund is gives you the flexibility to have those different asset classes, have multiple deals in the same fund. And from a legal perspective, you don't have to spend the money multiple times. Obviously, all the risks and disclosures have to be updated and so on and so forth as you bring in different asset classes. But generally, you don't have to spend a lot more money on the legal side. Managing it is much easier as well.
Gotcha. Was that more your own desire to have flexibility between asset classes, or was it driven more by what your investors wanted to see?
I think it's both. It was my desire to be flexible among asset classes, but at the same time, hey, when you're going to investors and you're asking them, you're presenting them a few options, and rather than them taking that, if they want to invest in oil and gas, they could go to somebody else for that 50. They have $100,000. They want to invest in two deals. They want to invest in multifamily. They want to invest in oil and gas. If hey, they like you for the multifamily, and they may like somebody else's for oil and gas. Now, if you had oil and gas in your portfolio, in your fund structure, you could offer that to them as well.
Yeah. Yeah, this is one of the best arguments as to why we use fund of funds so frequently. Let's say you do multifamily. The last year and a half, it's been tougher to raise money that way. And if you have 100 investors and 50 of them just don't like multifamily, you won't change their mind. Now, you just kind of lost them because that's the only asset type. Let's say you're a GP, right? Or you can open up a fund. You can go do fund of funds for self storage or oil and gas or short term rentals or mobile home parks. And you don't have to be the GP, but you can still give your investors somewhere to place their money and you still get paid as a fund manager. So it behooves you, I think, to look into, and this is something Tim says all the time, everyone should check out fund of funds because it just gives you more options, right? Whether you're using a customizable fund, you're doing more like an SPV, like we typically do, you're always going to have investors who don't like your asset type that you run into, that you meet. And do you want to lose them forever or potentially give them a diversification option, right? So it sounds like it is a little bit of both. But speaking of multifamily and how it's been going, what are your predictions, both multifamily and real estate in general? You approach this however you decide. What are some of your predictions for the market, and how are you preparing to take on the crazy landscape we have with Iran and all this stuff going on, and we're all still trying to make it work?
Like when I look at how wealth is made in America, wealth is created in America, there's only two ways to do that in my mind. It's either through startups, where you had a great idea, you created a company, and then you hit it out of the park. And that is one way to do it. And the second way is through real estate. Whoever you want to look at within the US in the past 2, 3, 4, 500 years, people have made money through real estate. Yes, there are cycles, there are ups and downs, but generally, either money is made using startups within the dot-com era or in the AI boom right now, or the second way is through real estate. So I sincerely believe in that. When you look at multifamily has had generally a 7, 8 year in a cycle. When I look at over the what has happened over the past several years, 21, 22 were boom years. But there were also the curse years from a interest rate perspective. Right? When I look at the interest rates right now, obviously I think they have gotten back to manageable number. I think they are still probably going to go down a little bit over the next couple of years. I'm not sure if the change in the Fed would do anything to them, but still, I believe hey they probably have some room to go over the next year and a half or so. When I look at the multifamily landscape, and I'm talking from a Dallas perspective because that's the market that I know best. When I look at Dallas, Dallas had a lot of supply coming in the last 2 years or so. That supply was not getting absorbed as much in the last year and a half or so. I believe a lot of that supply which came in the last 2 years has now burned off. There has been a lot of downward pressure on rents in the DFW Metroplex. We have been giving concessions to keep our units occupied, so on and so forth. We haven't raised rents as much as we thought we would based on our performance and whatnot, but we haven't raised rent. We've actually cut rents or and given concessions. However, and obviously there's a lot of good stuff going on around the occupancy as well. Dallas is probably also in the middle of the vacancy rate has climbed up drastically in Dallas. I think we were at Gabe's conference in last month. I think Neil Bauer talked about the fact that hey, Dallas is leading the pack at 12.5% vacancy within the country, which is much higher than what it used to be. With all those factors in play, just because absorption is going to start hitting where it needs to hit, I believe Dallas is poised to bring out some deals in the market. We also did talk to one of the brokers at again Gabe's. I keep bringing in Gabe's conference because hey, that was the latest one that I went to, and it was very well put by Gabe and team. So one of the brokers there talked about the fact that hey, there are about 600 deals in DFW alone, which are sitting at a 0.75 DSCR, 0.75 DSCR, and they are on the books of the banks. I believe a lot of those banks are probably ready to take a haircut and get them off their balance sheets. Yes, they will obviously try to obviously get the most out of that, but I believe 600 is a very big number in DFW alone. I'm not even talking about Houston, Austin, or the Texas or the whole country. 600 alone in Dallas. So we will see a lot of good deals in Dallas in the next 12 to 18 months. 12 months. I think, and I know we have been hearing about this for the last year and a half, year or so. I think we talked about it. Hey, all deals coming to market in 2025. I think banks and the debt funds have been holding them to their chest. I think they're probably sick of it right now, and they are, I think, getting ready to make money elsewhere. What you mean?
Yeah.
And like I was telling you, right? Hey, I think when I talk to the brokers, when I talk to Colliers, Marcus Millichap, Rowan, some of the brokers in Dallas, the price per pound has come down. I'm seeing deals in the 1980s right now at 80, 85, $90,000 a door. Those deals may not be cash flowing, but those deals sold for 110, $120,000 just 3, 4 years out. 3, 4 years back, these deals sold for $120,000, 85 construction, 120, $130,000. Right now, they're being sold for 85,000. People are taking haircuts. Investors are taking haircuts. Right. So it's the right time. If you have deep pockets, if you have capital, it is the right time in the next 6 months to go buy a deal in Dallas. It may not cash flow for you immediately unless you have a larger equity in the deal because these are also 75, 80, 85% occupied. These are not 90% occupied. Also, that will not qualify you for Fannie Freddie either, agency loans. So you might have to still do a bank loan or a CMBS or something like that. But the banks and CMBS are much more willing to give you decent rates, fixed rates, than they were in the past few years. So again, I think my prediction is, hey, I'm getting ready to have some money in the coffers where over the next 6 months I'm going to definitely buy a couple of deals.
Very well said. Very well said. I'm not as familiar with Dallas, but I've heard similar takes on Dallas. We're more familiar with Houston, of course, but very interesting. Well, I look forward to seeing how some of this plays out because everyone's been saying thrive 25, thrive 26. So let's see if we can maybe thrive a little bit. You've mentioned a few resources, right? AI resources, Cashflow Portal, Adrian, and those guys. We love them. Is there any other software or tools that you use regularly that you recommend for other people?
For capital raising, we obviously use our own tool, Capital AI. Hey, for property management, we our property management company uses Resman, right? But what we have done is we have created a tool called Tenant Vibe, and we are coming out of the market. We are in the market with that tool. What that does is does a lot of automation with your incoming calls, your maintenance calls, your rent reminders, and so on and so forth. So if you use that, it is very comparable to, I'm sure a lot of us might have heard of Elise AI. So we are the competitor to Elise AI in that space. We use Go High Level as a backend to the Capital AI tool, if you may, for capital raising, cash flow portal for and Investor for the fund management. There's another fund management platform called Homebase that is also pretty good. If you may, I have not personally used that Homebase, but I have seen the demo and I've talked to Domingo, who's the CEO for Homebase. Very well put together offering there. We use ClickUp as our task management tool for our team and I use Loom a lot. I use Canva a lot. From an AI perspective, we use Claude is my go-to. We have developed a lot of automation on Claude. Claude currently does pretty much 90% of the stuff that I have to do these days. I use Claude Cowork, I use Claude Code. My whole team uses Claude Cowork. So every morning I get a briefing of what is in for the day, so on and so forth. So again, I'm using a lot of AI tools. We use Gamma for any of our Gamma.ai for any of our deckware. We use a lot of tools around creating graphics and creating images and creating videos. We use Riverside for any podcasting. I'm not sure as to what you guys are using for podcasting. Fireflies. Again, that's a tool stack.
Very cool, very robust. You guys are utilizing pretty much everything that I can think of for everyday tasks and editing and all kinds of things. So that's really cool. I'm curious if you could go back and restart your journey, your real estate investing journey, would you do anything differently?
I generally have had a very fulfilling life in general, from my personal relationships to my business relationships to my what I've accomplished in life. And my favorite line is, hey, if I was to live life again, I wouldn't change even a thing. All the ups and downs. You can forget it. From a real estate perspective, yes, hey, we have made mistakes. I think there was one deal that went south for me, and that was primarily because of the floating rate disaster. I think if I was to do anything differently, I would do this. Hey, I have stood very fast on most of my deals to make sure I'm not taking a floating rate. I would probably go and change that back.
Hey, that's a pretty good answer. I keep everything the same except for that one deal. That's okay too. Very cool. And to end us, what advice would you give to somebody who aspires to raise 10, 20, 30 million dollars and get to 100 million in a but doubts their ability to achieve this goal? What would you tell them?
No, so again, I think what I tell a lot of my friends and colleagues is, hey, your network lives here. Hey, I think people don't realize, even the new capital raisers, they do not realize how much power their phone has. If somebody is just getting into capital raise, think about where they went to school, undergrad, grad, their first job, their second job, their third job, their golf club, their car club, their kids' soccer buddies, or hey, those are all your cousins, your aunts, your uncles, who are okay. If you're raising capital, if you go ask your uncle, is he not going to trust you? He saw you get big. He saw you grow up. He know what kind of a kid you were. If he's definitely going to trust you. It's the same thing with your aunt, your cousins, right? If your cousins know that you're successful, they will put money with you. So again, people are shy about, and I was shy. I was shy about approaching my first. What will be? I had such a hard time giving up my Facebook and my Instagram. I kid you not, my friend. I had such a hard time giving up. And then my team was, no, you have to give it up. And I was like, what will people think? And so again, your phone and your relationships that you've had since you were growing up, your undergrad, your first job, second job, third job, people, when they put responsibility on you when you're in a job, they're putting multi-million dollar responsibilities on you when you're in a job. They trusted you with those multi-million dollar opportunities and responsibilities. Would they not be able to give $50,000, $100,000 because they know that you do a great job? I think anybody who's starting to raise money, they should take their phone, categorize, put all your contacts from iCloud or through Google Cloud in an Excel, tag it correctly, upload it into a CRM, and start creating specific messages for your contacts and start sending them out. Do not be afraid of what will people think. And I kid you not, that phone you have, without even actually starting to go and doing social media and whatnot, that phone probably has $1 million in it.
Tim's gonna say you stole his line because Tim loves to say that. It is one of, and it's true. He says it all the time in all of our classes and courses. Like this little thing in your hand, right? This supercomputer that's in your hand, basically, it's got at least $1 million for 99% of people. You just need to go
I did not
extract
know
it.
that. I did not know that.
He says it all the time. He says it all the time. He goes, "This thing right here, this has $1 million right here, ready for you to extract. You just have to, like you just told us how to do it, right? Put it in a CRM, start sending messages, and that's time consuming, but that's what you got to do. So
No,
that's a really good
if you
answer.
have systems in place, Logan, it is not. I literally
Yeah,
kid you not. You could do it in 30 minutes.
yeah.
You could extract everything. And okay, how many emails have you sent in your, if you're a Gmail user, every email you ever sent and that address for that person that you ever sent an email is in Gmail.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that answer. That's a really good answer. You've been super generous with sharing your knowledge with us. How do you think the audience can support or give back to you, and what's the best way for them to connect with you before we jump into
Hey,
Q&A?
yeah, I am very active on LinkedIn. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. I will definitely put in my phone number on here, my personal cell phone number. And no, hey, happy to connect. Hey, if somebody wants to try out our AI tools, Capital AI for capital raising and 10vibe.ai for managing their properties, hey, we'll hook them up. We'll just mention that you were on Tim's call and we'll give a few months free as well.
Awesome. Very cool. And I'll put your LinkedIn there in the chat as well. I really appreciate it. This is a really good interview. I love the stuff you're doing with AI, and it's always nice to share that with the community.